For a country seen as a great place to live and work, America sure has a love-hate relationship with its jobs. In college, I heard a lot of talk about the role of work in a person's life. A professor would say, do what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. A mentor explains, I don't live to work, I work to live. At a part-time job, I'd ask a coworker how they're doing and receive a sarcastic, oh, you know, just living the dream. When I was in kindergarten, I wanted to be a karate teacher. Have I ever been to a karate class? No. Perhaps you had a more realistic dream, but I hope at least you could call it that. I don't think it's a coincidence that when we let our minds wander, they end up in places that we've never been. So how did we go from when I grow up, I'm going to change the world to don't get your hopes up, kid? Even when our job gets us a good salary and benefits, it often feels like just that, a means to an end. But certainly that childlike wonder that caused us to gaze at the stars wanting adventure had a purpose, right? Are we just supposed to settle for 40 hours in a 401k, or were we actually built for greatness? In the modern world, we have more labor-saving technology than ever, yet we're exhausted, unfulfilled, and confused. The American dream wasn't supposed to be just a life of pointless stability. It was a greater call to create your own destiny in a place built on opportunity. I don't want to let that ambition be snuffed out in me, but to flourish and find its intended purpose. I want my kindergarten self to be proud of what I'm doing. In my search for that great mission to embark on, I found something, somewhere far beyond expectation. As I sought to find God's true call in my life, He brought me far from the cornfields of Iowa I'd become familiar with and the people I knew. To find the American dream, I had to leave it. I think I have an answer to the longings of our hearts, and I found it in Nigeria.
Africa is the second biggest continent by both population and size. Although often seen as a victim of history, people are becoming aware of the region's rich potential.
One of the things you find is that if you're able to unlock a few final components, you can really explode the potential of the continent. It's happened in other places like India and like China. Africa, we believe, is next, and a lot of economists in the UN and around the world will say Africa is next as well.
I think with the right amount of seriousness and investment in talent, we could actually train a lot of the AI workforce from here. In the next 25 years, this country is going to be 400 million people. So I don't think you're going to get that kind of scale anywhere else in the world.
Africa is also a place of massive spiritual importance. With rich religious history in Egypt, Tunisia, and Ethiopia, Africa plays a major role in the Christian world. 1 out of 4 Christians in the world today live in Africa, and this number is growing rapidly. By 2050, the average Christian will be sub-Saharan African. And that leads us here to quite possibly the city with the most Christians in the world. On the continent of Africa, Nigeria catches the eye in nearly every category. It is the most populous at 238 million people, which is the 6th most in the world. It's also growing rapidly due to its fertility rate of 4.48, which is projected to grow to 400 million people by 2050. If this comes to pass, Nigeria will be the 3rd most populated country in the world, and it will be impossible to overlook it. This shows that even with a GDP of nearly $190 billion, which includes an oil and gas production industry valued at $34 billion, Nigeria's greatest asset isn't a natural resource or a material at all, it's its youth. The median age in the nation is just over 18 years old, less than half of America's, and half of their population is under age 30. The workforce is already seeing the beginning of a tidal wave of new workers, with 3.5 million new workers entering the marketplace every year. This is contrary to other powers like China, whose aging population will soon be a serious problem for their economy as its shrinking workforce will become increasingly strained trying to support a growing retired demographic. Instead, Nigeria has the potential for this to be a serious asset, but the job market is not mature enough to handle it. This has led to serious employment problems. 80 million of these youth are jobless, and of those who aren't, 93% are informally employed. Nationwide, 2 in 5 Nigerians are unemployed. Those who have jobs are often underemployed and could be doing better work if they had the right job.
Nigeria could be a major global player, but its resources have not been stewarded efficiently, causing this potential to be left on the table. If you ask Nigerians what's holding their country back, Many will point to corruption from national leaders.
On the Transparency International's Corruption Perceptions Index, Nigeria ranks 140th of 180 countries, scoring 26 out of 100, 17 points below the global average. The issue of corruption is improving, but its existence stifles national flourishing. Selfish short-term greed is stealing long-term countrywide success.
On top of these issues, there are underlying dangers of real violence.
Nigeria has 3 major tribal regions, with the southwest primarily inhabited by the Yoruba tribe, the Igbos in the southeast, and the Hausas in the north. The Hausa region often catches international attention for its religious violence, as the influence of Islamic jihadist group Boko Haram terrorizes Nigerians in the north.
According to Global Christian Relief, almost 10,000 Christians have been killed just this year for their faith, and even though it is about a 50-50 Muslim-Christian split, Nigeria is the country in the world with the most Christians killed as well as abducted or assaulted. According to Relevant magazine, since 2009, 52,000 Christians have been killed, 19,000 churches have been destroyed, and millions of believers have been displaced.
Here at this Christian school and orphanage in Ogun State, they are bringing in Christian children from the north, and some have watched jihadists slaughter their parents in front of them, and if they remained in that region, they would be forcibly converted.
Nigeria is a country with real needs. So how do we help? Lao Tzu famously said, "Give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish and you feed him for a lifetime."
This principle applies to countries too. Aid is great for emergencies such as natural disasters or wars and is beneficial whenever people are suffering. However, if we want to see the biggest impact, often it is better to have an investment mindset.
What if we could give our resources to a nation in need in a way that sets them up for success?
If we helped them help themselves. To understand what's not working about the current investment plan, I followed the trail of where the money was going. As the world looks at Africa as an investment opportunity, its eyes are often locked on the juggernauts of the continent, places like Cairo, Johannesburg, Nairobi, and here, Lagos. After all, they have the infrastructure, the big names, the market size, and the population that at surface level would seem like a no-brainer. However, they attract hordes of people looking for high-paying jobs that could improve their livelihoods, causing competition for jobs to skyrocket and quality of life to plummet. Amidst the crowds, the streets get filled up and dreams become unrealistic. Plenty of successful ventures have risen to the top from the intense sifting of talent, but one does wonder how many jewels were crushed under the incredible pressure that comes from a city of 17 million. That is why my journey took me deeper into Nigeria. Perhaps on the way towards the heart of this nation, I would find a vein that would lead me to the key and unlock the mystery of how to wake this sleeping giant. 150 miles up the road, I would find just that. Primary cities like Lagos and Abuja offer opportunity but are competitive. On the other end of the spectrum, villages have no competition but also lack the opportunities that a true city can offer. This is where a third option arises, a place with urban resources and a rural lifestyle. These are called secondary cities. While primary cities get the cameras and the headlines, it is often the secondary cities where the change is seated. London was the center of global trade at the height of the British Empire, but the Industrial Revolution emerged from Manchester. In the American Civil War, attention was on Philadelphia and DC in the north, and Richmond and Atlanta in the south. Yet the North's major advantage came from its rail superiority out of Ohio and Chicago. For a first-century Jew, the Messiah was expected to rise out of Jerusalem, but Jesus came from Nazareth, where they doubted anything good could come from.
Secondary cities are the underdogs in history, and Nigeria has a rising star. Welcome to Ogbomoso.
This rural city has much to learn about, and who better to tell you about it than someone who lives there? Meet Ayo.
Welcome to Ogbomoso. Ogbomoso is a city of around 1 million people, primarily of the Yoruba tribe. In the 17th century, a warrior named Ogunlola Ogundiran founded this town as a safe haven from nearby conflicts in Yoruba land.
In the mid-19th century, a Hausa jihadist group from current-day northwestern Nigeria began to invade south, taking over towns as they went. They got to the neighboring town Ilorin before targeting Ogbomoso, but the town held strong and fought off multiple invasions, which is part of the reason they are now called the Land of the Brave.
These stories of strength and preservation of Yoruba heritage are major points of pride in the city to this day. A phrase celebrating the history here is etched in stone nearby the palace, stating Ogun Ojajaja Koko Ogbomoso, which means no war rages and conquers Ogbomoso.
Around 20% of the population here make a living by trading goods and markets. This is Oja Igbo, and it is where the story of Ogbomoso began. This was the first settlement in the city where the founder lived under a sacred tree. As others gathered around his family, the land grew into a community and a market was born.
Over the years, Ogbomoso became more than a place of trade. It became the heartbeat of the city. Traders came from far and wide. Families built their lives around it, and today it still thrives, selling local sponges, beads, and other goods. Nearby stand the Township Hall and the Central Mosque. Remind us that this space is as civic and spiritual as it is economic.
It's also situated right next to the palace. In Nigeria, every city has a kabayesi, or king, and in Ogbomoso, it's called the Shaun.
The Shaun comes from one of the sons of the 5 ruling families who rotate through possession of the seat. The current Shaun is Obagandi Afolabi Olaoye Orumogege III, who has been in power since 2023.
Obagandi was actually a pastor in Washington, D.C., and lived in Maryland for 20 years before answering the call to come to Ogbomoso and serve as the king. He exemplifies servant leadership and has a bold vision to make Ogbomoso a model city through his 25-year plan.
This is one of the biggest sources of Ogbomoso's success. Having a king who cares about his people is a huge blessing, and he has brought so much progress to the city as a whole. This is Ojawa, so one of the busiest markets in Ogbomoso. Wazo is from the coinage Wazobia, which means come in 3 major languages in Nigeria, Wazobia. In this market, you would find traders selling the same spot for decades and even know most of their customers by name. This is Ladoke Akintola University of Technology, also known as LAUTECH. Established on April 23, 1990, it began with 436 students across 4 faculties. Today, over 35,000 students and over 3,000 staff call it home. It has been ranked on different occasions as the best state university in Nigeria, and it is consistently ranked within Nigeria's top 4 and Africa's top 75 research universities.
Students face systemic strain, often with a few thousand in a classroom without lights or a PA system. There's no student housing on campus, making it difficult for students to afford tuition and housing. However, they are highly resilient, and I've often heard how when students graduate and move somewhere else, they perform at a uniquely high level.
The limited resources here seems to train your mind that when you now get to an environment where there are abundance of resources, you see it as a huge opportunity. They tend to know more than their supervisors. Their mind has been stretched, overstretched, knowing too many stacks and very good at it. Take him there is good at it. Take him here is good at it.
Lagos is expensive, but secondary city are easier economically to thrive in it. And Lagos is congested, and secondary city is not congested. If I'm going to work in the next 15 minutes, if I thrive, I'm here.
So everywhere supports an innovative spirit here. Security-wise, everybody's like a family in the city. You know what is going on everywhere. You walk freely in the night.
And I see that so far we want to turn Ogbomoso to a Silicon Valley of Nigeria.
Ogbomoso has much more to offer. Besides the university, there are also 2 teaching hospitals. The Nigerian Baptist Theological Seminary was founded by an American missionary in the late 19th century and is Nigeria's first degree awarding institution. It has strong industries of mango and cashew production. However, these are highly seasonal, and outside of harvest season, farmers don't have much work they can do. There are other issues in this city, such as poor infrastructure. The roads are full of potholes, the electricity is only on for 6 or so hours daily, and there are hardly any restaurants or modern buildings. As a university city, Ogbomoso is a great place to take ideas and influence an entire culture. A person's college years are the most influential in their adult life, and there's a steady stream of students coming in to be formed and dispersing afterwards. However, this also causes strain on the city as students come into the city and leave, having been invested in and not giving back.
All this goes to say is this city has capacity for real influence, but there are hurdles yet to overcome. This is where I introduce you to a man with a plan for this city. A man who has gone on a wild journey which has led him to a unique calling, resulting in real impact in Ogbomoso and beyond.
When we came and saw what he was doing here in Ogbomoso, it was a clear wow.
Meet JD.
My name is Jesudamilare Adesegun-David. Jesudamilare means Jesus has justified me.
As a child growing up in Ibadan, he was highly intelligent, and it seemed that he was destined for greatness. In high school, after reading Gifted Hands by Ben Carson, he was set on attending university in America and studying neurosurgery. He got accepted to Truman State University in Missouri, and his plan was set in motion.
Interestingly, even when I was admitted to study pre-medicine in Truman State University, I had plans to go from Missouri to New York every summer to go hang out with a rapper called Nas, right? Because I was a deep Nas fan, right? So I felt like, man, every summer I'll leave school, go to Queens, New York, and just,
But life took a different turn. Even though he was admitted into the university, his student visa was denied twice, causing him to have to reconsider.
It opened my eyes to the idea that talent is universally distributed, but opportunity is not.
He decided to attend Lautech in Ogbomoso, and soon before starting his college career, something changed in him. It is here that he would obtain the greatest asset for his future, and arguably the password to unlocking his calling, his faith.
So that day I felt like I was just going to go to church, I was, feeling myself, looking all good. Before that night was over, I don't know if you can imagine someone with tears all over, bawling and, just crying and just recognizing how much I had brought pain to Christ.
After that experience, he began a period of radical transformation.
I just said, I've met Jesus and, he's called me to a new life. And so I was saved when I came to Lautech, right? I was saved. However, there was a part of me that was ambitious, right? I was super ambitious. Like, my ambition was to become a household name in Nigeria.
This ambition to do great things would later serve him well, but in the meantime, God had to take his attention away from the glory of JD and onto the things he needed to learn.
But as time went on, I just realized that the intimacy I had with God became different. Like, my whole energy, I would spend days in prayer, in the study of the word. There will be days for 3 days I might not come out of my room. I'm just in the scriptures. I'm just in prayer.
Now equipped with a strong zeal for God's kingdom, he would learn his next lesson at an organization called Educare Trust.
Nigeria sometimes could make you cynical, right? Where you feel like, is there hope anywhere? Like, if you're born on the wrong side of the tracks. But Educare welcomed young people, right?
He discovered the power of young people with a purpose, demonstrated through a petition against smoking.
Then taking up a campaign against smoking in public places. So we needed to get 1 million signatures. But this was from across the world. So we're working with other youth organizations across the world to get 1 million signatures. We didn't get 1 million, but we got enough to actually catch the attention of the United Nations General Assembly. And by the time it was 2008, Abuja, the capital city of Nigeria, was declared smoke-free, a smoke-free city. When I saw that in the news, I was like, wow. So it didn't matter where you were on earth. It didn't matter the corner you were working from. If you did things driven by purpose, it could actually affect the world.
Amidst success, God taught him to keep him number one in his heart. When a relationship was growing too important, he had to let go.
Whenever I commit to something, I go all in. So it got to a point, God had to call my attention to the fact that that kind of adoration, that kind of commitment should actually be first to him. So one day he asked me if I was willing to forego the relationship for him. That was I would say that was the most difficult period of my life. But in that moment, I actually began to recognize what the call to discipleship was. Jesus said, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. In that moment, I knew that if I didn't respond to God that way, I would have created an idol out of this lady, right? So I told him I was willing to let go.
Back at school, he decided to start a group based on his hobby of writing poetry. But first, he needed to recruit members.
I began to paste my poetry on notice boards. Nobody called me, right? So, and when nobody called me, I felt like, man, I need to actually hit the streets and go find these people. So I went in the campus, we'll stop people randomly and say, hey, you look like a poet. Do you write poetry? The person's like, yeah, I do. I'm like, wow, I've been looking for people like you. And some people will say, no, I don't. I'll say, you look like someone who should be writing poetry. Before we knew it, we're about 18 of us, right? So we formed a group called IPO Think Tank. It was first about our literary skills, but later it became more of a group of people who wanted to innovate, right? Wanted to create solutions, right, to problems that Nigeria was facing and Africa was facing. Then we're already getting people writing checks for us to host events and all of that, right? So it was like our lives were set. We didn't have to plan for after university because what we're doing already was enough to open doors for us. I was already getting invited to conferences outside Nigeria while an undergraduate student.
He was seeing success, but again, God had a different plan.
So God told me, he said, a man can know or have an idea of what I want to do with his life, but he can decide to make that happen in his own strength. And that was basically the description of what I was doing with the other group I had started, right? It had become this, wow, I can actually make change happen. I can make transformation happen. But it was more on what I could do with my mind than what the Spirit himself powers.
So, like the relationship, he had to give this up and step away. But this time, he knew how worth it the cost would be.
Because when God takes a man's ambition, he gives a man something far greater. What God actually told me was just follow me. So it wasn't like I knew where we were going, but I knew that if I followed God, I was all right?
With this foundation, he began to ask God to transform his university.
And I think one of the things I've discovered is when you begin to pray for something, right? Like, it's a form of implication, because then God will speak to you about what you're praying for.
Soon, this implication would call him to a new involvement in the work of God at his university. A preacher came to town and explained that God had a big plan for LauTech.
He began to speak about promises God had given LauTech. What he was saying was resonating with me. And he said, every generation that had received those promises had basically graduated and left. Then he said something, he said, but God is seeking for some people who believe that indeed they will see those promises fulfilled, that they will be there, they will labor with God to see those promises fulfilled. It struck me so deeply that, I left the meeting and then I went to a place where I usually pray. The bench was there, so I knelt down and I doubled over. And then I told the Lord, I said, Lord, I don't know what this means in its fullness, but I don't mind if you find me, as one you can use to see these things you want to achieve done, right?
Now, with a strong desire to see LauTech transformed, it was time for a frontline mission to fulfill it. But this mission wouldn't be a solitary one, as the relationship he had to leave was restored, and the girl he gave up for God became his wife. Their work for God's kingdom began right away, and they didn't have to look far beyond their home.
You're going to rent a large apartment. We were praying one day when he brought the picture of the apartment to us. And then the Lord gave us a scripture, Acts chapter 28, verse 30 and 31. He said, Paul dwelt in his rented apartment for 2 whole years, and he received all that came to him. And he spoke to them about things pertaining to the kingdom of God and the Lord Jesus Christ. With all boldness, nobody forbidding him. That was like how Acts of the Apostles ended. And that scripture became the anchor for what our own home will look like as well. The idea was God was telling us that we should open our doors to as many as He sends our way, to open our purses, to open our pots, and our hearts to them.
We open our door to everyone. Like, when I say everyone, I mean everyone.
And we're not working, right? So we're basically just, full-time missionaries at that point.
On the due date of their first rent, they were short by a considerable margin.
That was how I got a call. Hello, how are you doing? I just sent you some money into this person's account, right? Like, I believe that it would be of help. And the money was the exact money we needed to complete the rent. It was a miracle for us. It was God showing up. I feel like we couldn't have journeyed the way we did if we didn't have that foundation as well of trusting God. The idea was we're not to tell anybody our needs, we're not to borrow money from anyone, we're just to trust Him to supply to us.
I felt adventurous. Yeah, that was the word. Like, you can't say what will happen the next day. We're all just looking up to God for the next meal. We pray together. Everything we need, we just pray, and the Lord will come true for us.
It's shaped how we've lived up till this time. We don't live with thought of tomorrow, what we will eat, what we will drink. We're able to rejoice when it provides to us.
On their wedding night, they moved into what would be called White House alongside 3 other people.
From that day, it would grow to 25 people, living with a community that modeled biblical generosity and loving thy neighbor in a way that would shock anyone.
I think if any one thing shows JD's character, it's that.
Yeah, people think, okay, they know JD, a man of love, a man of this, a man of that. I'm like, you don't even know how, how loving he is.
Their generosity and welcoming was so open that in a particular case, when a student got very sick from the water they were drinking, someone at the house didn't even have to ask before inviting him to come and get well.
Man, it was 10 minutes to them arriving. He remembered that he had not told us. So he called and said, hello, I'm so sorry. Like, I just remember that I told some people to come to your place. I was like, wow. He was being very apologetic, but I said, I think God has achieved something. He has helped you to see that this is not our house, it is his house. And that's why you can actually make that decision before actually telling us. And so like a whole lot of things have happened in that house. People got saved there, people got, filled with the Spirit, people got strengthened in their faith, people identified what God had called them to. And so over time, more ministries were birthed in the community. People began to start churches, other ministries, and these ministries have grown far beyond Ogbomoso. Some of them are in the UK right now. Some are in the US. Like, it's just been this spread of what God started from a little house, right, in Ogbomoso.
After plenty of success in ministry, JD took a retreat to be with God and discern what would be next in his life, anticipating to continue down this path.
I felt like God would tell me that now the other cities of Nigeria are opened and then the nations are opened. And it was during that retreat with God that I heard him say, it's time to return to the marketplace. I was shocked, sincerely. I was shocked. I was like, no, no.
God again was calling him to trust and obedience when it didn't make sense. And he didn't immediately respond until he received a confirming sign.
Someone had a dream where the Lord showed the person that some people in Ogbomoso had come to meet me and were asking me, where is the shop you said you would open? Where is the shop you said you would open? And they were asking me, but I couldn't answer them in the dream. And immediately I saw it, I knew what it meant. So it was like my Jonah moment, right? The way Jonah was running away from what he should do. And I was like, oh, I get it. God actually wants me to step into the marketplace.
Since he was good at writing, he decided to start a writing agency. While he found success, God told him that this was not what he had told him to do.
And that for me was very, very instructive, because sometimes God can give you a preliminary instruction. You need to go back to him for the remaining details, because I just felt I could make that decision. Like, okay, this is what I'm good at, let me start this. So the next thing, it made me start reading about innovation hubs. So I started reading a lot about them. I read about CC Hub, High Hub in Kenya.
Meanwhile, he got added to a high school alumni group chat, and after some messaging, a former classmate noticed there was something different about JD. They caught up and realized God had done very similar things in their lives.
As we got talking about what God had planned for our lives, we realized that there were these common points. And then one of it was that we were interested in how to use technology for innovation in Africa. And then I told him about the innovation hub ideas I was already having and how God was leading me in that direction. I was like, yes, that's the same thing he had also been having, as a vision for Nigeria.
After praying, they decided to team up to see this vision take life.
So we basically came together and started Innovate Lab. The goal was, how do we use technology and entrepreneurship to seed the emergence of economic flourishing, as well as spiritual transformation.
And so people who have a mind for their community but also love building an amazing company, that combination together, that can really, really change a whole community.
Because we suddenly began to realize that people spend more time at work than either church, or people spend more productive hours at work or in school than at home as well, because you spend the bulk of time at home sleeping. For a long time, Africa has not had a solid theology of work, because there has been no cohesive theology that helps people see that the same person you are in church is the same person you should be at work. There is no dichotomy. You are a believer across all these different spheres. So the idea of discipleship in the marketplace became a very significant anchor for what we felt we wanted to do. And the Lord brought back the same principle of White House, where he said, receive all those that come to you. Interestingly, when we started Innovate Lab, we had to create roles for people that we didn't even have plans to have any roles for, because we knew that by having them in, we could actually disciple them.
JD had journeyed through many years of formative experiences, each lesson building on the last. With the call to a greater mission in the marketplace, he arrived at his next adventure.
Welcome to Innovate Lab.
In 2017, a group of entrepreneurs came together to ask the question, what if we used our skills to both make a living and to serve our city? They sought to use innovation and the technical skills and gifts they had to improve the lives of those around them and to transform their community. They rented a residential flat and turned it into an office space and got to work.
Their vision was to raise leaders and businesses that can bring healing and innovation to broken systems. They believed that faith, entrepreneurship, and creativity could exist in the same space and that a company could be both sustainable and sacrificial.
When I started Innovate Lab, people thought I was backsliding. Like, I had the love of the world, the love of comfort and the riches of this world had, captured my heart. But over time, they realized that was not the case. And so it gave them confidence to start asking me and my team to actually come teach their members, about, how to build businesses that were redemptive, how to integrate their faith into their work, how to build careers that glorify God and all of that.
Innovate Lab is purpose to me. No fragmentation about my person, my faith, and my work. And Innovate Lab seems to embody this, holistically.
Like, Innovate Lab started with just a vision, no product, no services. Do you know how crazy that is? Like, how do you start a company with no product and services?
Within a year, we were like a company that was already established for 10 years in Ogbomoso. So like everybody basically knew about Innovate Lab. Interestingly, we didn't have a sign outside the compound where we were. We never had a sign for the 7 years we used that space. But people knew us from corner to corner.
I can't emphasize this enough. It is the power of the Spirit that makes the difference.
We don't do anything here without the leading of the Lord. Right? It guides all our decisions and every action that we take. And then we try to model everything, to his prescription and his counsel.
I can be working on a client's project and I'm praying at the same time, praying that this work that I'm doing gives life to the people who get to receive it. And there have been testimony of people who have interacted with our work and how this work have sort of shaping their life.
There is always a marked improvement in their life. There's always a before and an after in terms of renewed perspective, shaped life and shaped mindset. This position to work as it is no longer as labor, but as service unto the Lord and unto humanity.
There is the fulfillment that comes from knowing that my work and my life's purpose are intertwined.
They have trained over 500 young people, incubated several startups, and supported initiatives in education, media, and community development. This has resulted in a network of purpose-driven ventures, all anchored in service, all born here in Ogbomoso.
Today, the team has grown to around 35 members, designers, software developers, content creators, and visionary leaders. To accommodate the new larger team, they needed more space, so they got a second flat to have more room. They've also diversified their impact, now running a digital marketing agency, a children's radio program, a career development advising firm, and Brave, a faith-based startup incubator that's nurturing the next generation of redemptive builders.
At Brave, we have seen firsthand how by design one space can unlock many bold ideas. Fellows walk in with questions and work out with purpose, direction, and tools to build and be what they have only dreamed of. In a 9-month residency, the first cohort of the Brave Redemptive Fellowship, through a connected global network of faculty, mentors, and sponsors, brought together aspiring software engineers, product designers, and entrepreneurs. And they did a deep dive into the redemptive framework of thinking, of building, and a third option approach to life and work. The results have been transformative.
Through its subsidiaries, Innovate Lab has touched a multitude of different industries. Brave Redemptive has instilled redemptive principles into over 200 aspiring entrepreneurs and tech talents. Great Plus Africa has connected over 2,000 people to future careers, and the radio program Children That Change the World has impacted over 300,000 children to dream big while they are small. Overall, more than 3 million people have been impacted directly or indirectly. Further case studies for its success are in its incubations, redemptive enterprises that have been birthed in the community and taken off, such as this former White House member with a passion for art that took his talents to make a concrete furniture business.
Just imagine that we are producing this piece for God, that Jesus Christ is just going to come in. And the interesting thing, Jesus Christ, was a carpenter. Was a carpenter's son. So I was like, just imagine, Jesus Christ can't make a furniture that would fall apart after a couple of days. It's like everything is aligning for Africa at this point in time. We are in a time when, for Nigerians, a lot of our youth now, they are looking at entrepreneurship. So Ogbomoso makes it kind of affordable to be able to set up your business. And there's security. Yes, it's a very peaceful and serene town, and it's secured. I mean, it's like all the stars just align at this point in time for Ogbomoso. So the opportunities are immense.
These themes of excellence and opportunity for innovation are even more visible in Africa's biggest industry, agriculture.
For us, business Farming, agriculture is a calling. Aside or beyond the profit part alone, we are looking at how we can transform the community. I've taken a little time to study about how some countries develop, and what I discover is that they pay attention to what they have and they maximize it. Here in Africa, what we have is agriculture. When you take a sample of most rural communities, sometimes 80-90% of them are farmers. So the average young man doesn't want to go into farming because he feels that farming will lead to poverty, but that is not the truth. We want to make farming profitable again. We want people to see that farming can transform lives. We want people to see that farming can be a game changer as far as living the life that you want is concerned. What does Ogbomoso have? Ogbomoso have cashew nuts. Now, if Ogbomoso has cashew nuts, how can we maximize cashew nuts to change the narrative of the community? So what we thought about is that there is one key that can lead to changing the story in the community. That is industrialization. Industry will create employment, industry will create better income for farmers. Currently, Ogbomoso produces about 40 to 50,000 metric tons of cashew nuts every year. About 97% of this cashew nut is exported out raw. Nobody is thinking about value addition. Nobody is thinking about processing. I believe that Ogbomoso has everything that it takes to be a major processing hub in the whole of Africa. More and more people are paying attention to what they eat. Yeah, because a lot of people are getting to discover now that most sicknesses are connected to what we consume. Food security is going to be a serious issue in the next couple of years. And we are going to need Africa specifically to be preserved. Just like Noah preserved by creating an ark. We want the company to be an ark that preserves people in terms of food scarcity. We do not run a competitive system. Instead, we run a complementary system. A system that believes that we are not the only one that will make this happen. There are other people that will come into the system to make it work. It is always a few that starts. And when other people see what the few are doing, they begin to get attracted to it.
But the true power of Innovate Lab lies in the coexistence of these mindsets and competencies with the divine blessing that allows their movement to go from great to unbelievable. Nowhere is this clearer than at Genomac.
Based on evaluation, it's a $1 billion market just in Nigeria. These particular drugs, this medicine, this herbal, was revealed by God, like to my dad. Yeah, so he had hemorrhoids for years, already becoming a skeleton, right? But he prayed because he was a pastor, and God revealed himself to him in a dream, and then told him the plants. So God gave it to him. The following day he went into the bush, looked for the plants and came. Just as it was told to him in the dream. Yeah. So he did that, right? Yeah. And then after putting all of those things together, he started. In 6 months, hemorrhoid vanished. So, and then we've seen people who have used it for diabetes, and as used personally, I've used it for diarrhea. Many people, like almost like 1,000 people have used this for various number of things. It has experience traditionally. So, but I bring in the modern education to it, such that we can translate it to something that medical sectors could actually approve.
So it's turned what he was doing into like science and medicine.
It's awesome. The healing potential, right? In prayers, is also there in plants. So we just need to discover them.
Wow.
Yeah. So for diabetes, we pray to a number of different people with diabetes and they get healed. But if they take this drug, they also get healed.
Multiple front war.
Exactly, and God created this plant, right? So we've been able to train over 100,000 scientists in over 120 countries in just 3 years.
I am honestly kind of astounded to hear what this place is. I kind of showed up not knowing anything about it. Like, Innovate Lab is huge by itself, it's doing really great things. But then I feel like its biggest product is its children. It really feels like JD is the Abraham of redemptive business, and he's gonna have many nations under his blessing.
Their reach and impact have been high and wide, but also strikingly deep. The power of God has been displayed through JD in the lab by touching not just livelihoods, but lives themselves, including IOs.
It's crazy how someone would show up every day in school, in church, and also be planning their exit. And that was the case for me. I was going to church like everyone else, going to school and back, but
I had a closing date in mind. It was the year 2018, and I thought to myself, it's okay to exit on my birthday, August 14th, and that was the plan.
A theme in these stories is someone having a plan and God helping them succeed. Joyously, this story doesn't end that way, and thanks to an opportunity delivered by a friend.
He just walked up to me after church one day, and then he said, there's an opportunity and I know that you're like best fit for it. Just try and go, and then the interview would be on the 13th of August. I was like, wow, that's like a huge disruption to my plans, because I was not planning to go anywhere before my birthday or my birthday, and I would end it all. On the 13th of August, I went for the interview, and that was where and when I met Uncle JD. I'm trying to show up. I'm trying to not make anyone suspect anything. I was just going to go. So Uncle JD asked me some questions, and he asked me about what I wanted to do in life. And they were pretty simple questions that I could not answer correctly. But he kept talking and talking and talking, and it was just like, I've never seen that before. So much light was just using from each corner of the room, like it's a new day, like I should not be thinking about that. And as I was walking home, I was thinking about my life. I was thinking about the conversation we had. I was thinking about the questions he asked me. I was thinking about how much I've been mistaken about being a mistake. How much the world would lose if I had gone. One of the things he said to me was that a life without God is like building a castle of sand that would crumble in no time. And that got to me. That was the point I knew I was trying to steer my life without God involved. And meeting JD was such a pivotal one for me, because I think if I did not meet JD, and even if I lived,
by the grace of God, IO was saved from suicidal ideation and is a key part of the team at eLab doing great work.
The Innovate Lab family has made quite the impact here in Ogbomoso. If they packed up shop today, they would leave having made their city better than when they found it. But Innovate Lab doesn't view impact as a single task. It's a freight train that must keep moving, carrying more lives, more stories, and more transformation as it goes.
While they are grateful for how far they have come, they are not stopping here. To reach their full potential, Innovate Lab must outgrow its current space.
What would it look like if we had a space that could actually gather larger numbers of these amazing talents in Ogbomoso?
This is where another key character comes in. Tim Handorf grew up as a farm kid in Iowa, and after graduating from Iowa State, co-founded a successful tech startup called G2. In 2021, G2 achieved unicorn status, meaning the company was valued at over $1 billion. Tim had found success in business, but he knew this success came to him not for himself, but as a platform to serve others. As he asked God what to do with the resources he had received, he got introduced to redemptive entrepreneurship and to an organization called Partners Worldwide. They connect entrepreneurs who have seen success with global partners in developing regions. When he heard about a tech startup in a rural city, it was a perfect match. Tim started partnering with JD, and on a trip to Ogbomoso, they toured a building that the eLab team thought could be used to expand their mission. They wanted to rent a part of the building until someone with them challenged the vision.
And then the next thing Pastor Emmanuel said, so why are you not thinking of buying this place? And it was like, it just came, bam, yeah, it's been somewhere in our minds, but the money for that is nowhere near available right now. And then say, you can believe in God for it. And then we said, yes, we can actually believe in God.
Prompted by God, Tim told JD that if he was convinced about the space, he would put down the funds.
And we're like, yes, we are convinced about it. That this is something that we feel didn't start today.
But most of the time, we are limited by the space.
The ability and the resources and the place and the everything basically to really scale the impact.
The new space for Innovate Lab is already in motion. Same redemptive vision, same art for innovation, and now with room to dream even bigger.
Situated right next to LabTech is a site that will soon become the home of innovation in Ogbomoso. Originally designed as a Mercedes assembly plant, it was also used as a Coca-Cola distribution center and later a mall. Now it has finally come into Nigerian hands as Innovate Lab has purchased the property. What they're doing with it is the reason I made the trip.
When Innovate Lab was created, they wanted to build an environment where innovation brought good to Ogbomoso. Now, that vision has moved from a figurative environment to a physical one. Today, that vision has taken root. No longer just an idea, but a physical space shaping the future of Ogbomoso. You are looking at the fields being tilled, and soon the seed of the city will be ripe for harvest. Welcome to the Assembly.
This is the next step in Innovate Lab's greater mission. Here, innovative members of Ogbomoso will take part in a unique community, one united in mission and dedicated to collaboration and mutual good. It gives them space to work, play, and dream. The co-working spaces are a first of their kind in Ogbomoso, and to find another space like it, you would have to go to a premier city like Lagos or Abuja. What happens here would be a litmus test of their mission to leverage the skills in secondary cities across Africa.
Welcome to the Assembly by Innovate Lab. We're in Ogbomoso, and this is going to be home to the densest cluster of redemptive genius in this part of the world. More than 7 years, we've been dreaming for a space like this in Ogbomoso. This is what it looks like. It reminds us of Genesis chapter 1. And the earth was without form and void. But we hope to see God's creative abilities show up in how we transform these spaces. So right here is going to be a co-work space. So you come in here and you see like a co-work space here. The Innovate Lab team will work from this mezzanine floor. And it's been a desire to actually like make available a very conducive workspace for my team. And this will definitely catalyze great work. So here is going to be a small training room. So it will sit about 20 people. And the idea is, for training seminars, small workshops will go on here. Here we have call booths. So for those who want to take calls, right here we have where we're going to partition for private offices. So these offices will take teams of about 4. These spaces are for young emerging startups that are just growing. And we're going to have 24/7 power supply. We're going to have very strong internet. Those two things are usually the bane of many startups in Nigeria, in Africa. One of the things that is also notable about this space is that it's just a minute walk from the university campus. And that's a mass of young talent. Here is the conference hall taking shape. The conference hall is basically going to seat about 500 people. You have career development conferences, tech conferences, spiritual gatherings, and all of that can actually be hosted right here. We're going to be having a restaurant outside, so more full meals can be taken outside as well. We are building out the assembly in phases. So phase 1 is basically the restaurant, the co-work space, and the conference hall. And then from here, phase 2 is going to include more training rooms, right? More training rooms and then private offices, because we believe that as the startups that work from here, as they grow, they will want to actually transition into, more larger spaces. We're planning a maker space right here, which will allow for artisans and those who kind of like love to build things, right? To have access to machines, to be able to build the things they want to build. Right here, we plan to actually build out a residential space. So it becomes a sort of 24/7 city where life, work, play can all happen at the same time. All right. So right here, we plan to convert this space to a creche. So mothers can come in, work in the co-work, and then have their children here, and they can easily just walk down, check on their children during breaks, and that will give them more bandwidth, more mental space to actually do good work while being sure that their children are being taken care of right here. But here, it's more like a loft. We're planning to turn this into a studio, right? We have a lot of young people in the creative industry who are seeking spaces for expression. So imagine we have places where you can actually like create music, create podcasts and all of that in a shared facility that also builds community around creatives. Now we have this space that really seems to be the answer to quite a number of people. I mean, Jason, as you get to interview people down the line, you would see how much expectation is in their hearts for this space. We have business leaders who should normally feel threatened, or who should normally feel like, oh wow, like, you know, Innovate Lab is doing this. They are actually very excited that this is happening because they know that a win for one is a win for all. And that's been like the strength of our growth in this city. There is this trend of collaboration, this sense of we have to hold ourselves together. We need to present a united front. We need to believe together for the same kind of things. And it's been amazing to see all that God has been doing with us from then till now.
The Assembly is Innovate Lab's mission in Ogbomoso achieved. Not just a space for talent, they are building a birthplace for a community unlike anything seen before. It will offer excellent facilities for businesses such as training rooms, private offices, and co-working spaces, and will also provide for non-work life with a gym, daycare, and a Nigerian-American restaurant co-founded by Tim's son Kale. This will be the best place to work in town, with amenities that create a new level of flourishing in life broadly. The buzz around the town was palpable, all leading up to this summer, and it finally launched.
Welcome to the site. It's the big day. The Assembly is launching. Ceremony is just about to start.
This is something that we've been looking forward to for a very long time.
It's been a long time coming. It's been amazing to see the journey over the last 2 years.
I'm looking forward to the amazing things that will be created here.
You know how you have a new baby and you're setting up for the naming of the baby and you're running around? That's how it feels.
I would say Kabo, like they say, that means welcome, welcome.
Just seeing JD share his vision and just going out in faith, not seeing where all this will land, but just step by step, God leading him. It counts as one of those miracles, really.
It's been a long process, but we're so glad to see this whole vision all come together and become a reality. God is good.
Yeah, and he can be trusted.
I've heard scaled impact. Everything they've done at Innovate Lab is just expanding to reach more people and in more ways.
I think it's going to be a cornerstone of the ecosystem. So I think what's going to happen is it's going to start to attract people and want to get into the redemptive business. And I think that will attract more businesses, and it'll be the catalyst to like getting more and more redemptive businesses going here.
More than just, you know, giving people good jobs and helping their way of life. I mean, this is like it's a spiritual thing. Like people's lives are changed for eternity here.
We're going to see much impact in the community and for the country as a whole.
Not only the businesses, but I think God will be glorified through it as well.
Persevering amidst unmet construction deadlines, they launched this June with the minimum viable product. Chainsaws and hammers were sounding off throughout the ceremony, but they didn't care. They were past what they could previously have dreamed of. The launch featured many top names in Ogbomoso, along with Tim, partners worldwide, and the eLab team.
I see this as a seed of an oak tree for this town. These are exciting times for us in Ogbomoso land. You haven't seen anything yet. You are just one of the first seed that is being planted in this land.
And by doing this, more people will come. They will want to join the movement in Ogbomoso. Thousands of jobs will be created. Hundreds of companies will be built. Billions of nairas invested. Thousands of disciples made. And you will look back on this key moment in time and say, wow, look at that movement. I was so proud to be a part of that as we did it together, dancing together in joy.
And if somebody tells us that, oh, all I know about Ogbomoso is bad roads and all of that, and they say, can any good thing come out of Nazareth or Ogbomoso? We'll tell them, come and see. Thank you so much.
For me, this was a profound experience. I had only been there for 2 weeks and it still felt like the beginning of something amazing. God had done something big, and the smiles across the room were testimony to that.
The assembly is an answered prayer. And it's not just for us, it's for a lot of people. We are assembling local talents that can export global products. And it's amazing how God, has orchestrated this.
So everything that the town has been doing in silos, Assembly is now about to bring it all into one place and put it in a way that it will now make a greater impact.
The assembly shares fences with the university.
So this fence is just the demarcation between us and the university. That chapel was where I knew that God would want me to stay back in Ogbomoso. So how beautifully has God designed it so that we have the assembly just across from where He told me to stay back in Ogbomoso.
After a powerful story like this, I could brag to you about how there's no town like Ogbomoso. And while I haven't seen one, this actually goes against Innovate Lab's mission.
When God started this work with us, one of the things He told us was that we were building out a template for other places like Ogbomoso in Nigeria and in Africa. And interestingly, we did a research some time back, and we found that there are about 305 other locations across Africa that have similar profiles to Ogbomoso. And we see that what God has done with us here and what He's doing with us here can easily be shared as a template with other people who God has called to different other locations.
This is the key to transforming Africa.
And I've discovered that we have more Ogbomosos in Africa than Lagoses, right? We have more Ogbomosos than Nairobis. We have more Ogbomosos than Cape Towns. If we can build businesses that can thrive in locations like Ogbomoso, if we can create cultures that can thrive in places like Ogbomoso, it means that we have opportunities to replicate such in more places across Africa. People in secondary cities are not unfamiliar with what people in villages experience. And people in secondary cities are exposed enough to know what people in primary cities experience. University towns are known for something. They are places where ideas are exported. I feel that those who bet on secondary cities will have actually bet on the most pivotal spaces in Africa.
Innovate Lab wants this vision to spread across secondary cities, transforming communities, saving souls, and glorifying God across the continent. Personally, what a vision. This could be the turning point for the continent that has been stuck in the sympathy of public opinion for centuries.
It's been an amazing journey, realizing how intentional God has been over the years, how He planned every single thing, one after the other. God is strategic, right? When the gospel was to be spread, right, it went from Jerusalem, and then it got to Antioch, and then at some point it got to Rome. Rome began to build roads thinking that it was for themselves, but they didn't know that those roads will serve missionaries, will serve the advance of the gospel. Anyone who can create jobs suddenly has access to the hearts of people, because when you create jobs, you've given people hope. If a person gets a job in Africa, they give a testimony in church, because every little makes the difference. People have died because they didn't have 1,000 naira, which is less than $1. So if one person gets a job, that might be 15 people who have finally gotten hope for the future. The fact that career and economic opportunities have become a big chunk of what people think about right now makes the marketplace inevitable. Like, everybody will go through it one way or the other. So what it means is that God is going to meet people right where they are. If the church remains within the four walls of the church, our influence is reduced, is minimal. But when the church takes their faith into the world of work, the next thing is they begin to influence their co-workers, right? They begin to influence their customers, their vendors. And what happens is that the knowledge of Christ increases in the community as a whole. I feel like the future of missions is in the marketplace, particularly in Africa. Enterprise has actually penetrated places that even the gospel has not gotten to. Coca-Cola has gotten to places where the Bible has not gotten to. So how did Coca-Cola do that? It was basically enterprise. They developed very efficient distribution systems, and they got to the last mile. If we think more of missions from a marketplace perspective, we realize that we are killing multiple birds with just one stone. So if believers build businesses that also will attend to the last mile, we'll be killing two birds with one stone. We'll take economic empowerment, but we'll take the gospel as well. Africa will basically have the strength in untold numbers to push any type of agenda. So it means that the first set of people to reach the youth will determine what agenda the youth of Africa will push. If we had more of such businesses like springing up across Africa, wow, I think we would shorten the time it takes to actually reach the rest of the unreached people.
So what can we learn from all this? Perhaps this story is meaningful to you and you want to partner with Innovate Lab to see their impact expanded and to see the assembly completed.
This venture has proven to have unprecedented impact for the kingdom and the community, and by giving, you can play a role in its success no matter where you are in the world. To stay up to date as the lab moves forward in its mission, you can follow along on the eLab Substack. To support specific needs, such as sponsoring a Brave Fellow, incubating a startup, or providing materials for community trainings, you can see all current needs at Innovate Lab's donation link. To help build and complete the assembly, you can give a tax-deductible gift through the Partners Worldwide support page. All links are in the description.
Or perhaps JD's story and the fruit of redemptive business is stirring something in your soul as it did mine. After this summer, our return to Iowa changed. I had witnessed how what is often the bane of our existence can turn to our greatest mission, and decided I wanted to give my life to something that matters. I believe God is going to do great things in the marketplace, and it doesn't have to just be in Africa. No matter who you are or what circles you're a part of, you have relationships that you can glorify God with. You have things you can do that can be done with excellence. You can achieve great things. All you have to do is dream and pray. There is no greater mission than the Great Commission. I encourage you to go make disciples of all nations, loving the Lord your God with all your heart and loving your neighbor as yourself. This earth, our nations, and even the assembly will pass away. Only one life, which will soon be past. Only what's done for Christ will last. Grace and peace. Hallelujah.